Last month, I discussed what AAA Sonic game could possibly be next, and how I didn't think it would be Sonic Frontiers 2. However, I thought it would be fun to take this video to discuss my ideas for a sequel for Sonic Frontiers should it ever happen. Hello everyone, I'm OCDsaster, and this is OCDsaster Blue, my Sonic exclusive channel where everything we do here is Sonic related, so if that sounds like something your speed, consider subscribing and checking out some other videos after this one. So a quick recap, I discussed in a previous video that the developers for Sonic Team mentioned that they are looking forward to the future installments of Sonic games and not focusing on remakes or remasters at this time, and that the open zone worlds are what they are looking at and trying to improve that as much as possible. The open zone worlds being like the island settings in Sonic Frontiers and the white space zone in Shadow the Hedgehog, which improved that formula. And I discussed in that video that they haven't really done sequel titles for Sonic in a while. They like to move on to different titles each time and try stuff that's new and innovate. I do not think that they're going to name the next AAA Sonic game Sonic Frontiers 2. I think they're going to go in a different direction. And like I said in that previous video that I keep mentioning, that they might continue storylines from Sonic Frontiers, but that's going to be the extent of it. In this alternate reality hypothetical world in which they do a Sonic Frontiers sequel, this is what I would do as a fun little experiment, how I would improve on not only the Sonic Frontiers formula, but add something to the story and to the gameplay to make it a little bit more spicy, a little bit more zesty, so that way you're not just reinventing the wheel again or just repeating certain story beats as last time. Starting with what I think would be the coolest thing to do, and that is have Sage as a playable character. You're still playing as Sonic as the main protagonist, however Sage will be assisting him in either a digital space or in, something similar to the different islands from the first game. So one of my critiques for Sonic Frontiers, and I have many critiques, is that the combat system was kind of lackluster, and part of that is with Sonic's design and just the way he operates. A lot of it is him being a, circle and just spinning around in a sphere and doing homing attacks and stuff like that. And I've been thinking about it, wouldn't it be awesome to have the boost formula levels and still navigate that as Sonic and even move around these hub world or open zone spaces the same as you do in, I'm going to use Shadow Generations as the example because I think those levels and open zone designs are better than Frontiers, but it'll have the Frontiers look and polish over the mechanics and, better controls of Shadow Generation, if that makes any sense. But as you're running around in these open zones, enemies will appear, and then Sonic will tag in Sage to use very cool abilities to knock them out. This way, you can play around with different attacks as Sage, since she's a digital entity. If you're in a digital space, even if you're not in the digital space, she's outside manifesting certain things. Just the way she works, her AI, she could have different weapons, and she can have different ways to attack that are flashy, big, and vibrant, that Sonic and not even any of the other Sonic characters can really do in their current iteration. And it's not to say that you couldn't still use Sonic in the fights. It could be something where she's the combo modifier, where once you get a certain amount of hits in as Sonic, it automatically switches over to Sage, and she can do some final move attack, or they could do some tag team stuff. I like to think of, and this is going to be a weird example for a Sonic game, but the Arkham games, specifically Arkham Knight, Batman Arkham Knight, there were a lot of fights in which you could tag in other people, Catwoman, Nightwing, Robin, these other characters, and like they do like a transition, and it's like a duo takedown, and then you're playing as the other character, and I think that would work really cool, not even just with Sage, but if you wanted to throw in other characters as well. But for the realisticness of it all, it would only be two characters. It'd probably be just Sonic and Sage. You can even have it so that there's different enemy types, and Sonic is more effective on some and Sage is more effective on others. That could also really diversify the battle mechanics, whereas if it's more of a digital threat, a digital entity, Sage has a lot stronger attacks on them versus Sonic, but if they're more tangible and they're more physical, then Sonic can actually deal more damage than Sage, and then you would have to switch on and off depending on what type of enemy you're facing. And then the boss fights, could you imagine? That's how you one-up the Supersonic boss fights. So you see, in Sonic Frontiers, at the end of each island, you go supersonic to fight these titans, and it's epic, it's glorious, it's amazing. But a lot of people wonder, myself included, how do you top this? Now that you've introduced this into Sonic games, a lot of people are going to want to see this in future installments. They want to become supersonic more and be able to use him as his whole almightiness to fight these awesome, larger-than-life bosses. And this is how you innovate on it. This is how you go further. If they were to do a Sonic Frontiers 2, not only you go supersonic, but you go Super Sage. And so the bosses are not only bigger and stronger threats, but now you use the power of both Supersonic and Super Sage to do combo attacks and to do these really big, cool things. So that's my main pitch for Sonic Frontiers 2, is essentially you take the Shadow Generations formula with the polished levels, the polished open zone, make it bigger, make it way bigger, have the controls stay almost the exact same, maybe fine-tune them just a little bit, and then splash it with the Sonic Frontiers coat of paint, make it darker, make it more hyper-realistic, and then you have Sonic and Sage working together throughout the whole story, fighting alongside each other, going up against enemies, and then even these giant bosses. But now I'm going to break it down even further. Why not continue following in the footsteps of Shadow Generations? I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. In Shadow Generations, Shadow gets Doom powers, which allows him to navigate to different parts of the white space map. Why can't it be like that for Sonic Frontiers 2, where instead of going to different islands, you're actually on a massive space? It's ginormous, but you can only get access to certain areas of that space if Sonic gets upgraded digitally with Sage. So you would have to beat a boss, then Sage would be able to give him a new ability, a new power, and they'll be able to go to different parts and then rinse and repeat. I think this makes the most sense, and it would just show how expansive the world can be, and it would just be a really cool addition. So that's another thing I'm adding, another layer to this sweet and delectable cake already. I really want to focus to be on new and improved levels. The cyberspace was a good start to improving the boost formula for Sonic, but then Shadow the Hedgehog once again blew Sonic out of the water with Shadow Generations. Those level designs were absolute peak, and I think they can only improve from there. So I would like original levels in Sonic Frontiers 2. No more memories going back to iconic stages. Maybe you can unlock them in like an arcade mode or something like that. But we need new stages that will be memorable for the next generation. It's time to upgrade and stop looking in the past. If the developers are going to come out and say we're not going to be focusing on remakes and remasters, then that also means they need to focus on doing new and inventive level designs. I think this is very, very important. So along with all of that, you might be wondering, OCD, then how are Sage and Sonic working together? What's the story? And I think the story could be very interesting. Instead of trying to stop Eggman or trying to reawaken Titans or finding the ancient lore to an island, let's flip the story on its head. Tails, Knuckles, and Amy are gone. They've talked about it in the first Sonic Frontiers. They want to go off and do their own thing and find their own journeys and stories and complete their goals and missions. I think narratively that's awesome, because now Sonic can't just lean on his friends and they can't lean on Sonic. So there's this separation, this new frontier almost. Get it? And so what happens now is, instead of Sonic having to save his friends, he has to save himself with the help of Sage. Let me explain. Dr. Eggman is up to no good again, and this time he's trapped Sonic in something known as the mainframe. It's basically this digital dimension, this digital space, and Sonic is not fast enough to get out. Somehow Eggman has been able to get him into this dimension, and Sonic is just simply not fast enough. However, Eggman is now taking over the world. He's doing more evil and malicious things, and he's starting to lose his mind a little bit. He's starting to go a little full Dr. Gerald on this. And you know what I mean if you're a true Sonic fan. You know what going Dr. Gerald is. There's being evil, and then there's going Dr. Gerald, and Eggman's starting to lean that way. And so his daughter, his surrogate daughter, his AI daughter, Sage, notices that he's getting lost in the sauce. He's going too evil. He's starting to even lose that little bit of goodness that is deep down inside of Eggman. So she, against Eggman's will, goes into the mainframe and tries to get Sonic out. But they realize that they need to work together in order to do so. With Sonic's speed and her digital AI abilities, they must work together to get stronger and stronger and stronger to break out of the mainframe and then to get Eggman to stop being this evil. I think this does things in a very linear and creative way, if I'm not tooting my own horn that much. And that's one, it sets up the premise of you working with Sage and playing as Sage alongside Sonic. It still keeps the characters intact where Eggman is still the bad guy, Sonic is still trying to save the day, and Sage is now in that like middle ground where she's not evil, but she also wants to, you know, respect her father's wishes and her programming. So there's still that gray area, and there's still, you know, some stuff to work out with her character development. You can do more, improve more on that. And then it also switches everything up, where Sonic's not saving his friends. He's the one trapped throughout the whole game. You're not in this, like, island sort of structure going into the cyberspace world, but he's in the cyberspace world trying to get out. That can allow for a lot of other things too, like pop-in. A big issue with Sonic Frontiers 1 was there was a lot of pop-in with assets like rails and stuff, and if they looked at a place, if you're in a giant world that's all digital, you can kind of excuse that, especially if it has to generate stuff as you're running through. And you can even have an effect where it like digitizes in, and it kind of forgives all of that, right? So that also gives some, I guess, leeway to the developers, and they're able to lean on that a little bit as a crutch if that's still going to be an issue if you have these giant maps that you can go to. It also allows for a lot of creativity with the enemy types, because if you're in a digital space, they can have multiple abilities, multiple looks, multiple designs, and that can also make the threat even crazier for the big bosses, because this could be sort of like a meta thing where it's like if Sonic dies in, you know, this main like digital area, this digital space, he will just permanently, you know, be no more. I'm sure you guys have a lot of other ideas and might even have counters to some of my ideas that I'm saying right now, and I would love to see those down in the comments. You guys are very creative and die-hard Sonic fans, so I really would like to see some of your thoughts and opinions down below. But what do you think of my hypothetical pitch for a Sonic Frontiers 2? Once again, I don't see this happening. I think they're going to move on to a different type of AAA Sonic game. They're not going to do this again. It'll be similar to Sonic Frontiers, but it's not going to be directly called Sonic Frontiers 2. But if they were, I would really like to see something like this, where Eggman is kind of losing his mind. He's trapped Sonic in this digital space. Sage gets guilty halfway through and decides to go in and try to pull Sonic out. They have to team up together and break through the mainframe, or the whatever you want to call it. And it just seems so poetic and so like juxtapositioned to the previous, you know, Sonic Frontier title. I don't know. I'm kind of proud of what I came up with there, but once again, you guys are really creative. You guys are more hardcore Sonic fans than I am, so I would love to hear all your thoughts and stuff like that. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and consider giving it a like and hyping it if you enjoyed it. I'm OCDsaster, and I hope you have a super Sonic rest of your day. See ya!